Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of DEI After Five. We are going to continue talking about all of these activities and things that are happening in the world around us that touch diversity, equity, and inclusion in some way. So this goes far beyond corporate. But today we are going to dive into a topic that I think touches corporate, but then also our communities. And we are going to be talking to Dr. Christy Dinkins, who is the Director of Campus and Community Partnerships, about some of the things that have been happening in the world around us and the impact that it has on how we show up and how we talk to our communities. So, Dr. Christy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so for the listeners who may not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure thing. So I have spent the past 16 years working in higher education. And so right now I work for Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, but I work in Metro Atlanta. And so I work in the state of Georgia. And so that I'm in the Bible Belt. Hello. So that tells you a lot already about kind of where my experiences are. But I do a lot of community work. And so a lot of my work kind of intersects, right? I can't leave my work at work. My work is not ever a 9 to 5. It's always a 24/7 type job. And I love it. I love working with students. I love working with the community. I love providing experiences where both can benefit from each other.
Yeah. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation because of that intersection of the work that you do. I mean, being in the higher ed space, being in the community space, things that are happening right now, are just kind of impacting everything. And so I think the common thread is this anti-DEI sentiment that we are seeing. Recently there was an announcement that the Target boycott, for example. The Target boycott is over. And, it just reminded me of 2020 when all the organizations and companies did the little black box and they were like, Black Lives Matter. And folks were like, hold on. No. Because how you treat me, no, this is not happening. And so it's been funny to watch not funny. It has been funny in some instances.
It has.
It's been interesting to watch this announcement that, this boycott is over. And folks were just like, yeah, no. As of me and my household, we're not going back to Target because if you're saying 3 of the 4 things were met and the 4th thing was bringing back DEI, and they're not budging on that, then what was the point, right? Because the whole boycott was around their DEI efforts. So talk to me about kind of what you've been seeing in this space, because it does intersect with corporate and community. So what are you seeing?
Well, I've had a couple of conversations. I work with different groups, nonprofits, people in the community who are doing really impactful work. And this shocked a lot of people, and some it did not shock. And what I will say is, first of all, let me just say this. I didn't shop at Target before like that. And so the boycott didn't impact me. I just started shopping at Target. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's easy for me to take off. But I didn't realize like a lot of my people, how it was hard for people in the community, things like, oh, I have to go pick up this for my school. I have to go do that. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, so there is like an issue with, giving away certain things that are there for survival or for you to do a good job. Right. So what I'm hearing about as far as what has recently happened, how could he do that? What does that even mean? Oh, he's a sellout, taking money, and money always solves the issue, right? Are these our real leaders? Who put him in charge? Who said he was the leader of the entire group, right? And I will just say this, like I was boycotting a lot of places before any of these leaders even mentioned anything about it. So for me, I was a bit taken aback, like, who does he think he can just be the one to say, hey, like, yeah, you did spread the word to a lot of people. We got a bunch of people who watch him online. I have a friend who lives in Pensacola, Florida, and he loves Jamal Bryant, right? And he was just like, oh my God, the great things he's doing. And I'm sitting here like, what has he done other than told people to do what everybody else is already doing? And so for me, it's a thing. It's like, I love that he did include a large group in this and got people on board. However, this is stuff that's been happening. We've been boycotting, right? I was boycotting Target, still boycotting Target, still boycotting Walmart. That was my thing. And so when I think about community leaders and taking ownership of what the community is already doing and has already been doing, I have issue with that. I take issue with that. And a lot of my colleagues also take issue with that because it says a lot about kind of just who you are as a person. And what you choose to put out there, the coattail you want to ride. Do you think you're the next Jesse Jackson?
Right. It's you touched on something just now that I think is so important. And what I think people fail to realize was there were 2 boycotts taking place, right? So his started with the 40-day fast that was tied to Lent. And, that ended at Easter in 2025. But they said, we're going to continue that boycott, right? So that one, I can understand kind of where he was coming from that perspective. But to your point, there was grassroots efforts happening in Minneapolis, where Target is headquartered, that were started by 3 individuals, Black women, who said, no, you're in our community. We've seen what you've been doing in our community. And in Minneapolis, there's so much happening there all the time. It feels like that's the central, post. And so for everything to have happened in Minneapolis and for Target to be in that community, literally headquartered in that community, to take away who started the actual boycott and go with the person that has more media attention speaks to the corporate side of this, right? And so I think that you're taking away from the grassroots efforts. You're silencing Black women in a way. There's just so much to unpack in all of that. But, for me, I was looking at it from the perspective. So I did marketing for several years, and I always worked very closely with our PR team. So my gut reaction when I saw, the boycott is over, I'm like, it's very interesting that they just announced last week that from a PR push that they were investing all these millions of dollars into AI and changing out the stores and trying to get more families back into Target for that experience. So I'm like, so that happened last week. And then now this week, the boycott is over. And if the boycott is over, then people are going to be coming back into the stores. Right. So I'm like, so people aren't making that connection. Like, that's the connection that I made. And so it really made me think about and step back to, this isn't about a marketing campaign. This is about repairing trust and speaking to the harm that was done. It wasn't just getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right, from an employee standpoint. And I think, what one of the reasons why was, they've created this belonging program within Target for their employees to have access to grow within the organization. And I'm like, but that's a misunderstanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion holistically, because the piece that's not being spoken about is the impact that it's had on the customers. And all of the work, all of the rhetoric, I will say at this point, around the LGBTQ plus community and the support, and they had Pride things during Pride Month, all over the stores. Inclusivity when it comes to sizing. They moved their plus size, if I recall correctly, their plus size section mostly online. Right? And so part of the challenge with that is, well, I can't now go into a store
Mm-hmm.
if it actually fits. I have to go
Mm-hmm.
online. So it shifts. There, even though they have been highlighting, for Black History Month, Black creatives.
Yeah.
What they also did was they took away millions of dollars from Black products that were on shelves, right? They got rid of that supplier diversity program.
Mm-hmm.
And so those Black founders were impacted tremendously.
Yeah.
And so it was just a piece of the DEI that they're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, look, see, we have this belonging piece, which is about employees, totally disregarding the customers.
Yeah.
And that's who they've lost trust with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I think about it from that perspective, when you look at a community that has been harmed,
Mm-hmm.
a community that feels that they have been mistreated in some way,
Mm-hmm.
how do organizations start to fix that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Oh my goodness. You just talked about a number of things that I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about too.
Come on, let's talk about it.
This idea of silencing Black women. I've been feeling that so hard lately. And it's not something that's new, right? This is something that has always been a thing. Black women are innovative. Black women are all four things, right? We're the front runners. We're the ones in the back. We're the beat of the drum. We're all these things, right? And have always been this. And, I can say in my work, I've been silenced, right? And so I can relate to this idea of coming up with great ideas, coming up with all these different things. And then someone's like, oh my God, that's great. Let's get on board. And then because they have that face, they're in the public eye, they make more money, whatever the thing may be, they kind of run with it and get the credit. And so I do feel for those women who are in that situation as far as this whole Target situation. And, you talked about, my goodness, all the things that are happening in that area. It's almost like we can't even keep up.
We can't.
It's hard to keep up, and it's hard to not desensitize yourself to some of this stuff. And I feel like that's what keeps happening over and over again. Something tragic happens. We face all this trauma with certain situations, and then it's almost just like, well, dang, how do I even react at this point? Now I'm becoming numb to some of this, some of this stuff. And I think that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. The fact that we are desensitized to trauma in so many ways. And I believe, getting back to the whole Target situation, I think that's also a piece of it. When we're talking about trust in the community and repairing trust, the communities that are impacted, we're so used to not having trust. The moment we trust someone else outside of the community, they show us who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say with the situation with Target, same thing. You were never, everything that you always did was performative. This was never about your customers, clearly. It was barely about your employees. Let's be real. This is really, truly only about the business, only about the corporate side. And so these performative acts, like putting this belonging initiative in place, great. Pat on your back, great. I'm so happy for y'all. What else? So it's hard for me to even think about the trust factor as it pertains to Target. It's hard for me to think about that as far as leaders who take credit or take ownership over movements that have been started by Black women, because these are things, like I said, I'm not surprised. And this is the reason why. The moment you try to trust them, they show you who they are. Go ahead.
And that's the difference between, I think, a Target and a Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. What I was seeing on social media was, we always knew what Walmart was about. Like, we've already known them, and so people didn't trust them around DEI because we already kind of knew who they were, right? They showed their tails a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But people made a choice to continue to shop there because they're like, I know my dollars. Already know. Mm-hmm. Target was different. Like, that felt like a personal hit because they had been so entwined into the community and doubled down on their efforts since 2020 for sure. And it had happened before 2020, but at 2020, they doubled, tripled down. And so I think that's the piece that makes that different, and that trust hurt more.
Yeah.
Because we thought, okay, we really thought you were down because of all the things that you were doing. But when it was time to, have to make a choice, and we saw that you rolled all of that back as quickly as it happened, speaks exactly to what you're saying, right? Yeah. Okay, now we know this was all very superficial.
Well, and then I always say the person who talks the loudest, the person that makes the most noise, is the person who, I don't know what the actual phrasing is, but to me, that just speaks to all the things that's now coming out, right? Yeah. You have all the DEI efforts, you have all of the Black-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses. You do all these things. You're piling on all these things because you're hiding something.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate because yes, it is hurtful. It is harmful to the communities that did trust you, to the people who felt like, oh my gosh, like, I thought they had my best interest at heart, right? I think about specifically the Black-owned businesses. I love Auntie Tab Brown. I love her.
Yeah.
And I think about how she was impacted, and when she was talking about her experiences, even at a certain point, she was like, y'all, please just don't stop buying. And I'm sitting here like, sis, this is not a battle you're gonna win, right? So I just think about that, but I also think about how they were impacted, how their households were impacted, and what that meant. My mom has an entire section of Tabitha Brown things, right? And she was just like, so do I throw away all my things? Like do I stop
in that?
Right. And she was just, I was like, no, you keep that. You have that already, and you supported a Black woman who's doing amazing work. This woman has a great reputation and is doing some amazing things for the Black community. And so you have people even grappling with what they should be using. How should they, be supporting other people? And that's the part that I have. That's the issue that I have, is the fact that all these different segments of different communities are impacted in a different way. And that's the part that nobody's talking about, at least on that level, it's not being talked about.
Yeah. And I think, when it all kind of went down, Tabitha Brown, I cannot remember her name, the lip bar, because she, the lip bar was at Target, spoke very clearly around the impact that it was having on their businesses. And, that's a huge revenue generator when you have a whole store that's like, yeah, no, never mind.
Yeah.
And then some that are less known names that were impacted by this. And people were saying, oh, no, just put it on your website. Some of the partnerships were exclusive to Target.
Yep.
So they couldn't even move over to their website. So to your point, right, this was a much larger thing than, oh, we're just not going to be supporting these Black businesses. The impact was so much greater. This conversation is so much greater than Target. This is about rebuilding trust, reconnecting with your clients, your customers, your audience. For more conversations like this, tune in to DEI After 5. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.